Jehosh, Abba Mentin, Allah Tov, Chishno Jehovah Yohosh, Echi Hoyo Pina Ashki.
Chokmashki. Well, thank you all. It's exciting to be here, and it's an honor and a privilege to have the opportunity to listen to your stories.
My grandparents and them were all raised right in this area right here. They were all right here around the Kullihoma area.
Wow.
So I loved living with my grandparents because of all the children that was around playing baseball or basketball. So you never realized how poor you really were and how poor the families were until you see a lot of the old pictures. I remember when I used to live with my grandparents, it seemed like every bedroom or the beds were so high. When you'd stand up next to it, the bed would be this high, but at nighttime they were pulling the mattresses off so they could lay them on the floor so there would be enough beds for everybody to lay down. So, like I said, families were very poor. There wasn't a lot of bedrooms, so they had to stack all the mattresses up during the daytime on the beds and then pull them all down at nighttime. But there was a lot of kids, yes.
Have you always lived here?
We lived between Davis and Sulphur. It was a little community named Fairview. Fairview community is still there too. And we had to walk. Everybody walked them days. When I still do, I guess, when I can. And we walked about, I think it's probably 2 miles. We had to walk every day. And we went to school at Fairview there. I knew I was an Indian, and I was Chickasaw Indian, but things wasn't expressed or something, enough for us to really think about it. And I was fortunate. We had 2 Chickasaw teachers, I remember.
Wow.
And we always had a good time there at that school. I can look back now, and I'm proud of that. I'm proud of the Chickasaw Nation. I still want my children and grandchildren to keep the tradition of the Chickasaw people and Chickasaw Indians.
You have a big family?
I do.
How many children do you have?
I had 4, 2 boys and 2 girls. That fire right there reminds me of one of my sons that passed away recently. He built a fire pit, a big fire pit, for us to cook pashofa. And I cooked pashofa in the black pot on that fire pit. And then we get together just a lot of times, and we always have a prayer, and I just appreciate all my family. They are so good to me.
Well, I was going to ask you, how was it growing up as a teenager? And
What I remember is living in Ardmore. My mother, she had 12 kids.
So where were you in the 12 kids? Were you one of the younger ones?
Yeah, I was next to the youngest. I had a sister younger. A lot of the time we lived with one of my sisters, my sister that was 10 years older than me. She run off and got married.
Did you give her permission to do that?
No, my dad did. And my dad, I remember my dad taking me and my sister to go look for her, and we didn't know that she had run off and got married. We saw her with him, but I don't remember doing anything. We just went back home, But I just kind of had to start taking over cooking and stuff, and had older brothers,
And you were 10?
I was 10, yeah.
you said you moved around a lot.
I did.
What was the reason
Yeah.
for moving? Was
I
it
did,
because
I
of
moved.
jobs, or because your dad had to find jobs elsewhere? Or?
Yeah, and we'd pick cotton for people, I remember doing that. We'd pick these people's cotton, and then we'd go to another place and pick cotton for these people. And so I know one time we were had camped out under a big tree. So it come a storm that night. So these people let us sleep in the barn.
Oh, wow.
And the next morning, was going back to the camp, and I had forgotten my shoes. I'd left them in the barn, and it was kind of foggy like, and I didn't say nothing. So I ran back to get them, and they had to go through a barbed wire fence, you know, take it down and to go get back to the campsite. Well, they didn't know I had gone back, so they just went on through and put the fence up. And boy, I was running lickety-split and hit that fence, and it just knocked me backwards and cut a big gash in my leg. And you know, we didn't go to the doctor then. you know, went up to these people's house. They just put some salve on it and wrapped it up. You know, I hobbled around the campfire. I never did go to the doctor with it or anything. You know, so it's a wonder I didn't lose my leg, I guess.
You know, as we hear these stories, it makes you realize how fortunate we were to live this long in our lives. If I've listened to the ladies here, it makes me feel honored and privileged to sit with them. When you're growing up, Oklahoma history doesn't tell a lot about the Indian people, the progress of the Chickasaw people. And there is a lot of progress. There is a story to be told about the Chickasaws, and to see how much they progressed over the years, it just makes me feel proud to be Indian, but it also makes me feel proud to be a Chickasaw Indian.
I have to ask this question because I know each of you, and you're too humble to talk about it. But you were all selected as a Mike Larsen portrait because you were seen to be somebody of prestige, somebody of importance, somebody who has overcome, accomplished, and declared victory in a sense. And I want to know how that felt to be selected to be one of the people that Mike Larsen wanted to paint.
I'll tell you my side. I didn't feel like I was worthy of being in that portrait. When you received the call, and I told him, no, there's so many other people that are more worthy than I am to do this. I mean, I know a lot of people. I have a lot of family members that I feel like should have been way before me.
Well, you know, I kind of felt that way because I said, you know, I don't look that much like Indian, you know, and so I felt that it should have been, you know, somebody that looked more Indian than me. But I was proud to do it, you know. They're always so nice. They wanted you to talk about your life. So I told this little story about when I went to school, and I said, you know, we hardly ever had any money, you know, or anything. And I said, I guess probably one of my brothers gave me a dime or something, you know. You get a lot for a dime. I could get a chili bun and I could get a Milky Way. So I'd go over to that little store when I'd have a dime, and I'd get me a chili bun and I'd get me a Milky Way for my lunch. And they would say, when I'd come in the door, they would say, here comes the Milky Way girl, you know. I told that little story, and sure enough, that's what was on my story whenever I got it. I didn't know that he was going to put that on, you know, that's what he was going to use. But they called me the Milky Way girl because of that little story I told.
Haskell, what are you called? I can't recall. Do you have a name in that?
Respect.
Oh.
A what?
Respect.
Respect. Oh.
And I have no idea where he picked that up. Because
I know.
I'm just, I don't know, I feel honored to be there.
Robert, what was your title? Do you recall in the Mike Larsen painting?
Not really. I just know he put Semper Fidelis.
Yes.
And it means always faithful. It's what you try to follow as your motto as a Marine, as a person, is just always faithful as far as your brother. You know, we're in Mike Larsen's paintings. And like my brother over here said, you know, when we got asked and selected, we felt maybe like we weren't worthy. As you think about it, there's a reason and a purpose behind everything that is done. And somebody in the future will say, hey, that was my uncle, that was my brother, that was my father or grandfather. And they'll take pride in that, and to be a part of what went on is just, like he said, awe-inspiring.
Amen. Amen. Any final thoughts that?
You know, one thing I want to say is, you know, when did we really become proud of being Chickasaws? You know, because I remember back in the 70s, I remember kids in school, they used to say, what tribe were you? You'd say Chickasaw. And it's almost like they didn't hear it. They didn't know anything about Chickasaw people. I was proud to be an Indian and proud to be a Chickasaw, but there was nothing out there for Chickasaw people. Just makes you more proud to know where we were to where we are now, and how much it's blessed our people. And they don't have to be here from Chickasaw country. They can be anywhere around the world. They're still very proud people now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Good.
It's very good.
We will always be known forever by the tracks we leave. Old Indians never die. They just fade away. I'm so proud that our Chickasaw ancestors were the ones that walked ahead, and today we're still walking ahead. And we're going to always walking ahead as Chickasaws.